Okay, so this is the next section in 6.1 of Savitch book edition 10 that we are talking about I/O stream. Previously, we talked about objects and classes because we're going to need that to use objects in this chapter. So we're talking about I/O stream. That is basically input-output streams. When I think about it, one of my analogies would be the freeways. So if I want to use a freeway, there are some ramps that's going to take me to the freeway, and there are some ramps that they're going to take me out of the freeway. But even when I am in the freeway, I can change the freeway. So the ramps doesn't have to come from the streets. The ramps can come from another freeway. So we can come in from another freeway, or we can come in from a street. So different way, but then that's the way we're going to connect to the freeway. So we talked about this before. I/O means what's coming into our program. That's for I. What is going out of our program. So far, we have practice on C in, C out, which are our standard input and standard output. Now we're going to extend on that one. And we say, you know what, we can read from another source. Just like my example in the freeway, not necessarily you have to come to the freeway from the street. You can come to the freeway from another freeway. And the standard one, we can think about it, a keyboard for our computer, or coming to the freeway from the street. The next is going to be our output. So what's going out of our program? In my example of a freeway, we need some ramp to get out of the freeway. And to getting out of the freeway, we can go to the street, or we can go to another freeway. So I'm going to get off freeway 5, I'm going to go to freeway 10. Or I'm going to get off freeway 5 and I'm going to go to the street. So that is the same concept. The standard output is screen. That's what we were doing so far. And we can actually write to a file. So that's for that one. And now when we're talking about streams, is the way that we're going to get things to our program. So we have the data that's coming into our program. We call that input stream. And we're going to have data going out of our program. That's going to be output stream. What's coming into us, what's going out of our program. So again, the standard input is keyboard. The standard output is a screen. We can use some other streams like files, some other ways. We can talk about it later. So originally, we were working with C in and C out. That would be the standard input and standard output. C in and C out. Now we want to, so when we were using the C in, C out, we were using pound include I/O stream, input, output stream. So that's what we have been doing so far. That would be the standard input. Now we want to move on, and we want to create a new stream to use files. So let me clear this one and move on to the next one. So why do we want to use files? One of the reasons is that we can store them permanently. So far, when we were writing programs, if we needed some information, we would ask the user to put in the information, and those information is not saved anywhere. So if we come back, let's say that you say, what's your name? And I say Jamal. And then if I come back to this program, it's going to ask me again, and it's going to ask me again. So it's not saving anywhere. The second part is when we're writing it to a file, that's going to last for a while. I mean, it's going to last long. So another reason that we want to use files is sometimes we have a lot of data. And if we using our program, and every time we want to input the data, sometimes the data is so much and it's going to take a long time. And if it goes away, I have to do it again. For example, if I am going to be reading the names of states, whatever program I have, I need the name of a state. Can you imagine that every single time that you want to run the program, I'm going to ask you to enter all state names again and again and again. So that's why we are using the file for input. We just put it in one file one time, and then we're going to use it all the time. We don't have to enter it again. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to be writing it to a file. And so that file can be as an input for, so when we're writing the file, I want you to keep that in mind, that there is two types of file that we're going to write. One is the file that we're going to create data for another program to pick it up, or we're going to write to a file for a person to look at it. So I'm going to create a file for my manager to show them some statistics that we have created, or I'm going to create a file that's going to create data that another program is going to read. I want you to keep that in mind, because the way that we're going to be creating files is going to be different depending on who wants to use it. So this, I got it from the Amazon cloud. And this is just a picture of what's happening behind the scene. This is for the loan request. So the loan request is coming in every 5 minutes or so. In the nighttime, what's going to happen is the system is going to be doing a lot of work. In the nighttime, there is nobody around. I mean, nobody, I'm talking about the developer or data entry or anybody like that. So the data entry at this part has entered the data, either the user himself or herself through the computer, or an agent in the bank, or an agent somewhere else. They are putting the data. This data is creating files. Now that we have the files, we call this batch files. So it's happening in the nighttime. So what happens is the programs are going to pick up files. It's going to use them as an input. It's going to do some processing, and it's going to create another file as an output for this program. And that file can be used with another program to do something else. In this case, they are merging all the files together. They're going to sort it for next step performance. They're going to check their credit history. So they need these things to be able to do that. So an output of a file can be input of another one. And another thing is, we'll be doing this in the middle of the night. Why? Because the system is slower. So generally in the industry, people don't work, through night. I know some of you guys like to do that, but there is nobody there to enter data. So it has to come from a file, and it has to be written to another file. Okey-doke. So when we are doing the input from the file, we're going to start reading it from top to bottom. And this is going to be how you're going to come into a freeway in that example. So when I start reading from the top of my file, so this is a file, baby names, we're going to work with that in this chapter. So I'm going to be reading one at a time. So when I get to number 13, I cannot go back to the previous ones at this time. So what do I need to do? I need to close the file and start all over again from the beginning to come down. So that's something that we have to keep in mind for now. I mean, there are some techniques to do it, but that's not what we're going to be talking about right now. And same thing goes with our output file. When we start writing a file, let's say I'm writing this to a file. If I say, you know what, I am right here on line 14, I want to go back to line 13 or go back and change something. We cannot do that. So we have to close the file, open it again, and start writing again. Okay, so again, I'm going to stop right here. So you can think about some of these things. Again, put it on the pause, take a piece of paper, write your answers in there, think about it. Don't go over it too fast. It's going to be a reflection for you to understand the material better. So you have questions, we can talk about it. We can talk about this in class. And that's what we're going to do right now. And I am going to stop this, but you can pause it and think about it.